This podcast contains explicit language and content and is for mature audiences only.
Hey, you teenagers out there. If you're under 18, this show is more for your parents. So now that you have that mental picture stuck in your head, put some music on and get back to doing your homework.
We are a longtime married couple who's decided to chronicle our personal adventures and share our sex-positive discussions as we navigate our way through the swinging lifestyle.
Care to join us?
Well, hello everyone. I'm Mr. Jones.
And I'm Mrs. Jones, and we want to welcome you to episode 18 of the We Got a Thing podcast.
Yeah, let's try this again.
Yeah, this is actually take 2.
Yeah. We have a good reason though. This is Saturday.
Yeah.
So we started doing this last night and
we were ready.
Yeah, we had all of our notes together. We were ready, and you probably hear my voice is a little raspy. We've been doing a remodeling job of our basement because we're empty nesters now, and we're turning our basement into a swinger pad.
Yes, so we have to get all of the carpet up and get it ready for new carpet. We've done all the painting. Well, I think we have a little bit more painting to do, but we're mostly done.
Right.
So Mr. Jones was pulling up all the carpet.
Well, our daughter wasn't a very good housekeeper, and I rolled up all the carpet, and I think I ate about a half a gallon of dust.
Well, it's on a cement floor too, and I think that's normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's been, and he didn't wear a mask, so he just was breathing it in.
Yeah, so anyway, last night we were recording, and I started coughing, and I got up to get something, and I was going to come back, and Mrs. Jones stopped me on my way out the door, and the next thing I know...
I let you go take the medicine. It was when you came back in the door.
Oh.
I said, "Are you feeling better?" And I was kind of giving you a hug, but I was still sitting down, and Mr. Jones was standing up, and he's quite tall, so...
Next thing I know, my pants were on the floor.
I was eye to eye with the good stuff. I mean...
Yeah, one thing led to another, and the massage table's in this room, and I laid down on the massage table. You ended up getting undressed and getting on top of me, and then like 45 minutes later, we're going, oh shit, the podcast. We'll have to do it tomorrow.
Yeah, we lost our mojo for recording.
Yeah.
We didn't lose our mojo for sex, but just recording.
Yeah. Well, it's probably better. I feel a little bit, my voice is a little stronger today. So let's, we are episode 18.
Yes.
And the episode title is So You Want to Be a Swinger?
Making the fantasy a reality. And
we'll talk a little bit more about that a bit, but we've been getting a lot of emails asking about this topic for those of you who are new. And we have a lot of people that are not even in the lifestyle that listen from the sidelines and are curious about this too. So
I think they're kind of living vicariously through us because they still have kids at home and they're just not really ready to take that next step.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
But before we go into our first segment, Keeping Up with the Joneses, we've been corresponding with a lot of people. We have some friends that we've been corresponding with, and we'll call them our Pacific friends.
Yes.
And they came up with this really creative idea of a game. And the name of the game, it's like a bingo game, but it's called...
We Got a Thingo.
Right. So they've made these cards, and they've taken words and phrases that evidently you and I must say frequently on our podcast, like Liqueur 43 and Snapshots and What's Your Thing, and Mr. Jones, and of course, It's So Beautiful.
And I Love You.
And I Love You. So they made bingo cards, and in the very center, they put our logo in the free space. So it's really cool, really creative, and they have some friends, and so they're going to be listening to our podcast together with their friends, and they're going to be playing bingo, and I will have to ask them what the winner gets.
I think that's the beauty of it. You get to make up your own prize.
Right.
So I think it's a very flexible game.
Yeah. So she sent me the file. So if anyone else out there is interested, are we going to make a requirement on this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think the least our listeners could do is if they would like to get a copy of We Got a Thingo, they need to send us a snapshot.
Okay. Well, Mrs. Jones has spoken.
That's easy.
Yeah. All right. Well,
everybody's got a snapshot.
Yeah. If you want the game, just send us an email, send us a snapshot, and tell us that you'd like a copy of the game, and we'll send it back to you.
That's right.
All right. We got a lot to talk about tonight.
We do.
keeping up with the Joneses. What's been going on in middle of December and early January 2016?
Well, to keep things in chronological order, I think the first thing that happened since we recorded last was that you had a birthday.
I did.
And your birthday happened to be on a Friday night.
It did.
So who else would we play with on a Friday night?
Our Friday night friends.
Our Friday night friends.
Right. And before the lifestyle, it was a birthday blowjob. But now that we're in the lifestyle, it's a double
birthday blowjob. Now, let me just clarify, because a lot of your friends talk about getting the birthday blowjob.
Honey, a lot of my friends talk about they hope they get a birthday blowjob.
So your birthday blowjob was never the only blowjob you ever got during the year.
No, it wasn't, dear.
No, it was just a special birthday blowjob.
It was very special.
I think this year was the most special.
Yes, you two went to town on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good time that evening.
And just to report out to everybody, you're a year older and everything still works.
Yeah, that was the main objective. Let's just make sure everything works here.
Works just fine.
Keep the pipes cleaned out.
That's right.
All right.
So that was very fun. We really enjoy our Friday night friends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then the next night, that was a banner weekend, because next night was Naughty Stocking night.
Right. And a lot of you have been doing naughty stockings. We've been getting pictures from people sending us things about their naughty stockings. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're going to have to steal ideas from some of our listeners. They're getting really creative with it.
Yep. So, Mrs. Jones, what did you get in your naughty stocking?
So I got a really beautiful club dress that I had on last night when we were recording.
Yeah, you didn't have it on very long.
Well, it made it to the massage table, but it needs to go
Maybe
wash
that's
now.
why we didn't make it. It was the club dress.
It could have been. Yeah, you have good taste.
Yeah, it could have been the martini. And
yeah, there was a martini involved. Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
So anyway, I got that club dress. I got a really pretty bra and panty set that is like ivory, and it's got silver threads in it. It's very, very fancy, very elegant and classy.
So you like it?
I do like it.
I picked it out myself.
I know you did. I'm very proud of you.
I even got the right size.
Yes.
This time.
And I think there was a really slutty bra and panty set. It doesn't have a lot of material, but maybe like fringe.
Oh yes, the fringe on the tops and the bottoms.
Yeah.
Yep.
And somehow I think like the whole back is missing. I don't know if it's defective.
Must have been. Yeah, I think it was a defect. I got a half price special on that one.
Yeah, right.
It was missing the back.
Yeah. But so I got classy lingerie and I got slutty lingerie.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I don't even know how you got this to fit in the stocking, but there was a violet wand in my stocking.
Yes, and if you don't recall the violet wand, you need to go back and listen to the Naughty in New Orleans episode when John from Blissbringers got Mrs. Jones to experience the violet wand. So now she has one of her very own.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, John set the bar pretty high, Mr. Jones. He knew what he was doing with that thing.
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't electrocute you. Yeah, so then my stocking, and I don't even remember what was in my stocking except because the last gift that I pulled out of the very toe of the stocking is the only one that I can remember. Well,
you got some nice like swinger underwear, like sexy swinger underwear.
Okay.
I mean, and it wasn't like the, what is the name of that thing called? That like the elephant trunk where you put the junk in the trunk.
Junk in the trunk, yeah.
No, they're like classy, nice, but very, very sexy swinger underwear. I think there was a new supply of condoms in there.
I know. We've been going through some condoms.
I know. So just in case, I think I had, you know what else I put in there? A bow tie. Because we've gone to some events where you've had to wear your tuxedo. And Mr. Jones decided that he was too cool to wear a pre-tied bow tie. So he bought one that he had to tie himself. So every time we get ready, he's like frantically watching YouTube videos on how to tie a bow tie. And I think the last time you ended up going just with an open collar. You were just like, screw it, I can't do this.
I did. And the problem is I only wear one about once or twice a year, and so I always forget how to tie it.
Right.
So you got me one of those fake ones.
Well, it's not a clip-on one. It actually has a band that goes around it.
Right.
So, yeah, I put that in your swinger stocking or your naughty stocking. So it was a nice variety of things.
But the best gift that you gave me, drum roll, at the very bottom of the toe of the stocking, I pulled out this little gift card, and it says, "This certificate gives permission to Mr. Jones to explore the lifestyle in search of a single guy to play with Mrs. Jones. How about that, Mrs. Jones?
I would like to deny it. I should have typed it, but I didn't. It's my
No,
handwriting.
it's your handwriting.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't deny it.
Right. So we're busy looking for the right single guy.
Yeah, Mr. Jones is already pursuing it.
Yep.
I'm really nervous.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to be nervous. We're going to take good care of you.
Yeah, that's what I understand. I've heard lots of good feedback from a lot of my girlfriends.
Yeah, so let's see if anyone out there can top that. The violet wand and the single guy. Quite a year.
Yeah.
Quite a naughty stocking, so thank you for that.
It was very fun. Very fun.
So what did we do after what comes next after the naughty stocking?
Well, we had crazy sex that night. What else would come next after the naughty stocking?
Of course, and I think we used the violet wand a little.
We did. And I kind of used it on you a little too. Did you like that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we had it on the lowest setting. We were
we
afraid we were going to kill each other.
Yeah, we had it on low.
But I don't think you meant that. Did you mean like after, like keeping up with the
Yeah,
Joneses?
what's next on the
okay,
agenda
I'm sorry.
here?
I was sorry.
Yeah.
A little distracted there.
And Saturday, we drove up to Pittsburgh.
To meet Paige and Penn
From
Swinger Diaries.
Yes.
So we have another Swinger Diary
We had a
entry.
private.
Yeah.
We had a private Swinger Diary.
Yeah. Very, very fun.
Yes, and they said to tell everyone hello,
Yes.
and I did my best to try to talk them into podcasting again, so you all can thank me for that, though I was unsuccessful.
Yeah, but I'm telling you what, I think Penn has some like secret show notes logged in.
Well, they're
somewhere.
still making diary stories. They're just
Yeah.
not publishing them.
Oh, we got to hear a diary story. Oh my gosh.
And that was amazing. I hope maybe they'll just come back and tell that story.
Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
can't tell that story.
Yeah.
It was just for us.
It was.
For now.
It was very sexy.
And while we were up there, we were fortunate enough to be invited to a house party that was co-hosted by one of the podcasters from the Star Underground podcast. So let's see if we can get these names right. So it was Bonnie Barrow.
And her fiance, Clyde.
And Bonnie's the one that got us in the party.
Yep.
And then there's Captain Jake and his wife, but I can't remember which one.
Well, she's not one of the podcasters. I
No.
think I don't want to screw it up because you meet people and they've got their podcast names and then they have their real names. And so I don't want to screw it up.
No, but we enjoyed talking to both of them.
Yes.
Got to meet both of them. And then there was Roxy Kicks and
Alonzo Jericho and his wife.
Yes.
And we had so much fun meeting all of them. They were all so friendly and they did a really good job of making us feel welcome and part of the party. And it was just great.
Right. I think Alonzo has a crush on you.
Well, it was a little, we had some fun. I always seemed to be like in his way. So he would have to, scoop bite me.
Yeah. He was looking for you.
Yeah. And there was usually like a toll to pay.
He was
that
making
involved
sure
a
you
kiss
were
or
in his
something.
way. Right.
Yeah. But he was very, very much, he was a lot of fun to talk to and he's a big old flirt.
Yes.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So it was great to meet everyone from Star Underground, and we thank you guys for letting us crash your house party.
Yep. But then we made our way back to the hotel in Pittsburgh. We stayed at a beautiful hotel in downtown Pittsburgh. We kind of splurged a little bit. And the hotel had a great tavern in it. So we hung out with Paige and Penn in the afternoon at the tavern and had some lunch and just shared so many stories. It was great to catch up. And then at night, right before we went to the house party, the hotel had a speakeasy, and it was downstairs, in the bowels of the hotel, and you really kind of had to look for it, just like a real speakeasy would be. And supposedly, at the front of their menu, the legend is that the speakeasy was originated by...
That's what they claimed.
A lady that lived in Pittsburgh.
And it was funny because Paige had a really sexy dress on, too sexy for a vanilla club, so she had a trench coat on over top of it.
She had on thigh-high boots and this crazy sexy black dress. So yeah, she had to keep her coat on the whole time.
Yeah. So you all were getting a couple of stares.
I'm pretty sure everybody there thought that Paige and I were hookers.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm pretty sure. Just some of the looks that we got.
Right.
Oh well, we were having fun.
Yes. So thank you, Paige and Penn. We had enjoyed our evening together.
We did. We had some
with
really
them.
sexy drinks there too. They had really interesting drinks at the speakeasy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very fun. Not just your normal rum and Coke or whatever.
Right. So we spent the evening with them and came back home the next day. And then we met another couple. This couple that we met even before we started podcasting, but we've never really been able to meet up with them until recently.
Every time we've run into them, it's been at a big event, so you talk for a few minutes, but it's, you're distracted by everything that's going on around you. And
right.
I think we ran into them 3 different times.
Right.
And the last time we ran into them was, I think, at the Halloween party, right?
Yeah.
And finally we were like, we have to get together where we can actually sit down and talk.
Yeah.
So we did. We met them at a winery, I think right before Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And spent the whole afternoon talking and sharing wine. And we got the cheese plate and we were sitting in front of the fire and they had leather furniture in this one room at the winery.
They had to chase us out.
Yeah, they closed and we had to leave.
But anyway.
So we got together with them. They came to our home a week ago,
mm-hmm.
I guess. And we got to know them a little better.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really good.
Only in a way that swingers can.
That's right.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that later.
Yes.
So before we move on, we have one last story. This is a great story.
So I have a lady that does my hair, and I've been going to her for I'd say at least 10 years. And she's just hilarious. She has a great sense of humor, and she is not shy. She'll say anything. So I was getting my hair done. It was, I guess, right before Christmas. So we were talking about what we were doing for the holidays, and we talked about Christmas and what we were buying our families and all that stuff. And then she said, so what are you doing for New Year's? And I told her what we just told you guys. We're going to Mr. Jones's friend's house in North Carolina. And she said, well, how well do you know them? And I said, well, Mr. Jones has known him for 4 years, and we've been out to dinner with he and his wife a few times. I said, so, we know him pretty well. And she was like, and you going all the way to North Carolina? And I was like, well, yeah. And she said, and you're going to stay at their house? And I said, yeah. And she said, how do you know they're not swingers or something? She was actually cutting my hair when she says this. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to hold still or she's going to ruin my hair.
Yeah.
So I was just like, whoa. I said, well, unless they steal our car keys and lock us in their basement without our clothes, I think we're going to be all right. We can, if they do something that we don't like, we'll leave. In my head, I'm thinking they're gorgeous and we really like them. That would actually be awesome. But
mm-hmm.
of course I couldn't share. So she goes on to tell me about how she said, I know I have at least 6 or 8 clients that are swingers. And I'm thinking in my head, well, really, that's probably 7 to 9 because you don't have any idea about me. And she was telling me what neighborhood all the swingers live in our community. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? And she's like, well, swingers hang pineapple flags upside down off their front porch and they put white rocks at the end of their driveway. And I'm like, really? How do you know this stuff? And she's like, oh, people just tell me. She's like, you wouldn't believe what people tell you when you cut their hair. So I'm just sitting there playing dumb, just dying. I cannot wait to text Mr. Jones. You are not going to believe the conversation I'm having with my hairdresser.
Well, then she was asking you about what, unicorns or something? Yeah,
she said, well, have you ever heard of a unicorn? And I'm like, I'm assuming you're not talking about the animal. And she said, no. She said, girls can be swingers. Single girls can be swingers. And I said, well, how does that work? And she said, well, for example, a single mom will move in with a married couple and they'll all sleep together and they'll raise their children together like it's perfectly normal. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's one way you could look at it, I guess. And I'm just asking her question after question after question. I have no idea what she's talking
expert.
About. Yeah, she was the total expert.
Teaching you.
And I'm just dying. It was so funny. So then it got quiet for a little while. And I think another client came in and she had to go talk to her for a minute. And she came back and I said, so do you think a guy that's not married could be a swinger? And she said, what do you mean? I said, like a girl unicorn. I said, could a guy be a unicorn? And she said, well, I don't think so because he would have to be half gay or something to do that.
So she thought that a guy would have to sleep with the guy and the woman.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. And at that point, I figured I had to push my luck. So I just kind of like let it die. But I was just dying.
And about that time, you're texting me.
Yeah.
You're not going to believe what my hairdresser's telling me about swingers.
Yeah. When she went to go talk to her other client, I started texting Mr. Jones like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to get home and tell you what just happened.
Yeah.
It was hilarious just to hear somebody completely outside of the lifestyle, their perception.
But she was acting with you like she knew everything.
Yeah.
She was teaching you a thing or two.
She was. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny. So that's Keeping Up with the Joneses. We've been busy again this past month. Next month, we're going to be going to a Do You Know George event.
Yes.
So we'll be podcasting about that next podcast, and that'll get us out of the Washington, D.C. area in the middle of February, which should be nice.
Finally got cold here.
Right. So when we come back, we're going to tell you exactly what we mean about So You Want to Be a Swinger.
So welcome back to segment 2 of our podcast tonight. So you want to be a swinger, making the fantasy a reality.
I do want to be a swinger.
I know, and you're a pretty good swinger, Mr. Jones.
Well, I've had a lot of practice now.
Yes, and I know you have some fantasies. Some of them have become reality, and some of them we're working on.
All right.
Yeah. So, obviously this podcast is geared more towards the newbies or the wannabes, but if you're a seasoned swinger, maybe this will bring back some fond memories of your entrance into the lifestyle.
Or maybe not so fond.
Or maybe not so fond. It just kind of depends.
Yep.
But anyway, we've talked a lot about our entrance into lifestyle and how we went to Desire and kind of did a little bit of research. So we sort of kind of thought we knew what we were walking into, but we really didn't.
Right.
So to help you guys avoid that, because we've had a lot of you guys say, I can't imagine doing what you guys are doing, or we want to be a swinger, but we just don't know, how did you guys start?
Right.
I think a lot of you want to know some very concrete steps to put in place, or a way to put a strategy together.
And if you want to hear our story into this, go back to episode 1 and 2, because we tell quite in depth how we got into the lifestyle and how we started out and some of the pitfalls that we encountered.
Right. And I mean, even today, we don't have it together, and I'm sure we'll touch on that at some point. We still have our issues and our struggles, and I'm not going to lie, we kind of had a knockdown drag out just planning this podcast.
I know. I hope you all appreciate this.
I know. This was stressful.
Yeah, we usually get our show notes together a few days before, and I had to use my active listening skills the other night over and over and over. I think I was trying to explain a point I was trying to make, and it took you 3 or 4 or 5 times before I was able to explain it in a way that you halfway got it.
I was trying to redirect you, and you kept saying the same thing over and over again. You weren't using different words to kind of help me.
We're trading.
Oh, whoops, we're fighting again.
We're about to slip back into that.
This is not sexy. Yeah. Okay, anyway.
This is real.
Welcome to our marriage.
Yep.
So if you're looking to get started, we're going to kind of help you come up with a 4-part plan to kind of work through the conversation and to kind of get you to kind of maybe be aware of what it's going to feel like when you actually, kind of step into that first event. So
those 4 parts are like
before you start,
yeah.
What conversations do you need to have? How do we step into the lifestyle? Okay, what steps do we take? How do we start? And then once you get there, what kind of experience is playtime going to be like? What is it going to feel like? And then finally, there's going to be the morning after.
Yep, right.
So to get started, the first thing you guys need to do is really talk about how well you guys communicate.
With each other.
Right. It's got to start there.
And specifically, we're talking about words. I mean, you have to be able to say to each other, this is what I'm interested in. And I remember the first time we went to Desire, Mrs. Jones, the couple that we met, the gentleman was making fun of you because you wouldn't say the F word.
I know.
and he kept saying, before this week is over, I'm going to get you to say fuck. And I remember thinking, hey, wait a minute. If anyone's going to do that, I'm going to do that.
I know. And it turns out that he was the one that got me to do that. Sorry.
Right. No, that's okay. I need to send him a thank you note for that.
Yeah, really.
You're pretty good at it now.
It just kind of spews out. Yeah. Most of the time at a good time.
Yeah. And you need to talk out loud about, what you like and what you don't like, because people are going to be asking you these questions, and you need to be able to answer your spouse first.
Right.
Before you get into a situation where you're really talking to a stranger about something.
So people are going to ask you questions about what you like and what you don't like. And then in the middle of play, you might need to help your partner understand what you need to experience pleasure. I mean,
right.
That's the awkward part of swinging, especially, if you're a one and done kind of couple and you're constantly playing with new people, it can be a lot of work to get the person that you're playing with to understand your triggers and how to push you over the edge, because it's all new territory.
Well, last night, didn't you? Because you were pretty vocal last night.
I was pretty vocal
last night. And you are much more vocal now that you've been with other men.
Yes.
And at first that bothered me a little bit because you were more vocal with them than you were with me, but now I'm the one that's benefiting from all of that.
Well, that's true. And honestly, I never really... I mean, I guess I should have been. That probably would have enhanced our playtime with just you and I. But
you didn't know.
Well, and you know my body so well because we've become sexual beings together. You've taught me to be sexual, and I've taught you to be sexual. So you know what I like and what I need.
And speaking of your body, so not only do you need to communicate, you need to be able to be comfortable being fully exposed physically.
Right.
I mean, to touch yourself and to be naked and, to walk around in front of people. I mean, if you got to be able to do that in front of your spouse, because you're going to be doing this in front of complete strangers.
Right. I mean, can you masturbate in front of your spouse, and can you give yourself an orgasm in front of your spouse?
Okay, let's all practice right now.
I know, right. Time out.
Yeah.
Hit the pause button.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's one thing that I really had to get comfortable with, is allowing myself to relax enough to have an orgasm. Mm-hmm. Because if you're really focused on the fact that somebody new is touching you, and maybe it's a woman, maybe if you're the lady listener and it's a woman giving you pleasure and you've never played with women before, that that's a whole new experience in itself. And can you relax enough and get into it to actually come?
And if you're a man, we have it a little more difficult because we actually have to get an erection before anything can happen.
Right. You guys have more pressure for sure.
Yeah. To be able to relax in front of strangers enough to do that, sometimes we've experienced that with other couples too. And it's pretty common in the lifestyle, but you don't know how you're going to react and what that pressure is going to do to you. So you need to practice at home and then just be prepared. And and when it happens, you step out of the room and look down at him, at your cock, say, "What's going on here? We've talked about this. We've been waiting for this for a long time. There's two beautiful women out there now. Get in your game. Get your head in the game." So
literally.
Yeah. Yeah. So the communication and the being comfortable in front of your spouse, before you go do it in front of others, that's kind of a before you start sort of a thing.
Yeah. So then, the really, as far as the planning goes, you have to decide what kind of first step do you want to take? Right. Are you guys just looking for a sexy environment to go kind of just check things out and be the observer?
Yeah. And a lot of people say, is that okay? And that's perfectly okay. As a matter of fact, that's your first dipping your toe in.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
When you go to Desire, or you go to a club, or you go to a house party and you just stand aside respectfully and you watch what's going on, that's pretty arousing. And then the two of you, you stand there and you watch that for a while, and then before you know it, you're yanking each other back into your own bedroom, and because you're all charged up from watching. So
right.
That certainly is an acceptable way. A lot of people start that way.
Yeah, that's a pretty good foreplay right there.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's all you want out of it. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's people that never go beyond that.
Right.
That's their thing.
Right.
So,
and you're not going to know until you actually do it. Because remember, I remember my first blowjob at Desire.
You remember that, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, we were there. It was you and I, and you had me sit up on the edge of the hot tub, and
it was our first night.
There was people all around, and you started going down on me, and I'm going, okay, here's the moment of truth.
I know. Well, we had gotten there that day and just decided to take our swimsuits off and just, it's like pulling a Band-Aid off. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we survived that and had a great dinner. And the next thing I know, I was like, okay, well, what else can we, what's the next step?
Yeah. Day one, success.
And I didn't even warn you. I was just like, can you get up out of the water for a minute?
I was like, yes, ma'am. Anything you say.
But I had it easy because like my face was in your lap. So I didn't have to watch people watching me.
Yeah, but when you went down on me, my eyes like instantly rolled back in my head. So I
you
really
weren't watching either.
No, but you still know people are out there.
Yeah, I know. It was very hot.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So anyway, that is being an exhibitionist.
Yes.
So maybe that's all you want. You just want to play with each other, but you like the idea of people watching you.
Right. And remember, there's parallel play too.
Right.
So a lot of people have talked about, you just get on the same bed with another couple and have sex with each other and just maybe incidental touching, but you're not really touching the other couple.
Oh, right. Well, but remember the time at Desire, we had friends that were not into the lifestyle at all, but they were super intrigued. They liked to talk to us, but they weren't in the lifestyle at all. And the last night they were there, we got them to get on one jacuzzi bed, and we got on the next one. We weren't on the same bed.
That was parallel beds.
So we were parallel bed playing, but they were having sex and we were having sex.
Well, they were looking over at us.
Right, and we were looking at
them.
them. And I think that they really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then they just sent you an email not too long ago, right?
Yes.
And they went back this past November, and we weren't able to go that time, but I think they have taken a couple more steps.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Need to catch up with them.
Yeah, I wish we were there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's
being an exhibitionist.
And then there was the one that I always wanted, and I always wanted to watch my wife with another woman. And that was we checked that off of our list at Desire too.
That's right. That's kind of how I thought we would enter the lifestyle and stay there.
But you didn't know that you would like it so much until you did it.
Right.
Because you were just doing it to kind of check it off the list for me.
Right. So, if that's something that you're curious about, and again, some couples only play with in the girl-girl setting.
Right.
And then once the girls finish playing with each other, then, they might have sex with their own spouse on the same bed as the other couple. But, there's really no interaction with the opposite husband and wife.
Right. So there's all these different ways you can enter it, and you need to talk about, how far do you want to go with other people and set that limit. Have that conversation before you enter your first event or, playtime or whatever it's going to be.
Right. And be pretty confident about saying, that's going to be what we do tonight.
Right.
Or as far as we'll go. I mean, it might end up nothing's going to happen, and that's okay too. Because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to go and be in the sexy environment. You're going to go back to your hotel room or your house and have sex with each other.
Yeah, and that ain't bad.
And it's not a bad way to end the night.
No. Let's keep things in perspective.
That's right. So, if you can set that bar at the comfort level of the most hesitant person,
right,
then, you'll both have a good experience.
Right.
You don't want to be pushing your spouse, or you don't want to be dragging your spouse.
That's right. And be realistic. And then, remember that when you get in the environment and the hormones take over and all of a sudden you think about changing gears, don't do that.
Right.
This goes back to your saying, Mrs. Jones, and that's going home.
Regretting something that we didn't do,
right,
versus regretting something that we did do. Kind of,
right.
It's okay to miss an opportunity because there's going to be more opportunities.
Right.
But if you end up overdoing it, then you got to go home and process all that.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of emotional work.
Right. So keep it in your pants, guys. I mean, no, really, because it's gonna benefit you in the long run. If you've agreed to go to a certain level and you feel tempted to go beyond that because you're feeling really good, don't. And then talk about that later. Say, hey, I really felt like I wanted to do this, and then get your spouse's feedback and
think about it as a tease. You you got really horny and you really wanted to do something,
Right.
and you didn't do it. So it was just kind of like a tease, and then you go home and you take it out on each other,
Right.
and have crazy sex with each other.
Yeah. And, be realistic about what the outcome might be. Like you were just saying, Mrs. Jones, the worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to go home and have sex with each other.
Right.
The best thing that's going to happen is we've agreed that we want to fill in the blank, and that happens. Or something in between there happens, but nothing beyond that.
Right, right.
And so any of those scenarios can play out, and it's going to be different every time.
Right.
Yep.
I think sometimes we get caught up in the moment, especially if you've done something big, like you've gone out of town, you've gone on vacation, or you've just gone away for a weekend to a club or whatever. You've invested a lot of effort. You've had to get grandma to watch the kids,
Yep.
and you maybe even had to take a day off of work, and it's cost money because you've had to either fly or drive, and there's hotel and meals.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure you put on
and entrance
yourself.
fees into a club or an event, and it's it's not an inexpensive adventure.
Right.
So sometimes you feel like, well, I got to get my money's worth out of this weekend because we put all this time and effort into it.
Yeah, but remember, keep things in perspective, because this time last year, you were getting grandma to babysit so you could go off and just be the two of you in a hotel.
Exactly. And that was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now we're ready to talk about the how.
Right. Now you know what you want.
Yeah.
Now how do you make that happen?
Yeah, how do you step into the lifestyle?
So Mr. Jones would tell you that the very first thing you're going to want to do is find one of the lifestyle websites that is pretty active in your area, because some of them are more regional than others.
Yes.
And go ahead and get an account set up.
Yeah, I would say look at even maybe two of them.
Right.
Because there are several. There's Cassidy, there's APG, Alt Playground, SLS, Swing Lifestyle, and SDC. We'll put these on our website.
Yeah.
But you're going to find that for whatever part of the country you're in, there may be one that's more localized for you.
Right.
So do a little bit of research and find out, which one in your area, and take the plunge. I mean, you've got to come out of the closet at some point in time, and getting online and getting a profile and a presence on a swinger dating site is definitely the first thing. It's a gateway. Think of it at that. It's a gateway to information. It's not just a place where you're going to go, try to have sex with people. That's ultimately what happens, but there's so much more than that.
Right. And we're going to talk about all the other types of information that are on these lifestyle websites as we kind of walk you through some of the where do we start topics.
Right. And the initial conversations are, everybody has a fear that they're going to get found out.
Right.
And so you're afraid to put, too much information on there because people are going to figure out who you are.
Right.
And a lot of that, some of that is true, but a lot of that is just you getting comfortable with having a presence online. So sit down together, decide how much you want to share, but what you do share really should be honest, because remember, the likelihood of you hooking up with somebody who is compatible with you really depends on how much effort and how honest you are with your profile.
Right. I mean, there's definitely a tipping point on how much information you want to put out there. Of course, you want to be discreet. I would say the vast majority of swingers want to be discreet.
Right.
Really none of us wants to be found out. But you also have to put enough out there to make your profile intriguing to others.
Yes. And please go ahead and pay for a subscription.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why. Even if it's just a month, you're investing in something that quite possibly is transformational in your lives and in your relationships. So, it's tempting to do the free one, but we don't think of it this way. We don't let people who have the free memberships view our profile, because we want to know that people are serious about it and committed to it. And if anybody can go in there and just sign up and get a free account, then people can be snooping around in there that really aren't serious about the lifestyle.
Well, there's two kinds of people I'm concerned about. First of all, you can get some really creepy guys or creepy girls, I guess, snooping around just trying to find sexy pictures so they can get themselves off.
Right.
And I don't really want those kind of people seeing pictures of me, even though my face pictures aren't accessible to them. And then you have seriously dreaded nosy neighbor.
Right.
You know, I don't want somebody to get suspicious and then try to start digging around. And, you know, they're not going to want to pay money to dig around if they're just being snoopy, nosy, busybodies. But, you know, so that way it kind of prevents those types of people from having access to really find out too much about you.
Yeah, so go ahead and pay and get certified and become a member. Decide what kind of pictures you want to put up. And we don't have face pictures up except for in our private album. And then we only allow that to people that we choose to open those up to. And then I think the thing that you liked is when we sat down side by side and we checked those little boxes about what we like and what we don't like.
Right. So when you develop your profile, you write a couple paragraphs, one about describing yourself and another one about what type of people you're looking to meet. But then to help people learn about you, instead of just reading the paragraph that you wrote, there's like this list of like 30 different activities, sexual activities that you are either intrigued by or repelled by, I guess. It goes on like a scale of 1 to 5.
Well, what is your level of interest to those activities is what they're asking you.
Well, and how necessary are they in your play in order for you to, experience pleasure? For example, there's blowjobs on there, and there's oral sex, and there's like, BDSM or anal sex, or just kissing, girl play, and the new website, we just recently joined Alt Playground, APG, and I love the way they have these things rated. They don't just say 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. The 1 is not a chance.
Right.
And the 5 is gotta have it.
Right.
And then they have a couple other cute phrases, along the way in the middle.
Right.
But I just love that, not a chance.
Yeah. So before we go further, just recap this little piece. Make sure you fill out everything that you can and put your pictures out there. Make your pictures representative of not only you as an individual, but, couples pictures and maybe some things that you do together on the weekends. But when we look at a profile and there's no profile written and there's no pictures, we usually don't take that profile seriously.
Right.
So you're going to have to take a little bit of a risk.
Well, and take a little bit of time. And I mean, I learned a lot about Mr. Jones, and he learned a couple things about me by just watching each person fill out or rank all of those things. I was like, I never really thought that you thought that was super important.
Right.
So that was kind of fun.
Okay, so now you've set up your profile. What's next? Well, there's a lot of things on the website that you can take advantage of, and we'll get into these individually, but there's forums, there's communities, there's ways to date people, events, parties. Where should we start?
Well, right, all of these. So you're like, okay, well, I'm living, in this normal society, and there's this subculture, like really actively going on all around me, and I don't even know where to begin to find it.
Yep.
The websites have that stuff. There could be a meet and greet at a perfectly normal restaurant in your community. That might be too close to home for you. There'll be a meet and greet in a perfectly normal restaurant or bar a half an hour or 60 minutes away, or however far you need to go, so that, you're not hyperventilating when you walk in, waiting to walk in and see your son's school teacher or whatever.
And we're starting with the meet and greet because we're going in order of how. What was the word that you used when we talked about?
I said from low risk to high risk.
Yeah, low risk to high risk.
Yeah, as far as how much trouble you can get into, or maybe the risk of running into somebody in an awkward situation.
And it's a public place, and if you're not comfortable, you can turn around and walk out, and there's people behaving because it's a public restaurant.
Right. And some of these meet and greets are kind of like topic based. Like we went to one that was at a winery one time, so it was for people that liked wine, or there's more age specific ones, or I don't know, they're just all different kinds of themes that they can put with these meet and greets, but they're all at public places. A lot of times the host and hostess that has arranged it will get the restaurant to give them a private room, or maybe they'll kind of just open up the bar for everybody, and you're kind of contained there. But the bottom line is that other patrons in the restaurant can see you. So you have to behave and you have to dress appropriately.
Right.
So that, to me, that makes it low risk for somebody who's nervous.
And if you remember at Cassidy, they have something called Girls Uncorked.
Right. And those are events, usually at somebody's home. Sometimes they'll have them out at a bar or whatever, but those are events just for women.
Right.
Where women in the lifestyle can get together just to have girl talk about, the fun or potentially issues that come up when you're a female in the lifestyle.
Right, and that's very low pressure because there's no
Right.
guys there, so there's little chance of anything breaking out.
Right, right. So, I mean, all of us girls are attracted to each other, but again, we're behaving because
Right.
it's really there for some, girl bonding time. And, you can ask girls, questions about just, things about your body or about safe sex or things that you've been worried about being sexually involved with other people in the lifestyle. How do other women manage that, and what other tips and tricks do they have to keep you
Right.
safe and comfortable and
Right.
all that? So Girls Uncorked is awesome.
Yeah. And then probably the next on our list is dating other couples.
Right.
Yeah, so that's pretty safe, although it's close to home.
Right. And sometimes at meet and greets, you'll meet another couple there. I mean, that we've met a few couples at meet and greets that we've ended up becoming friends with and playing with.
Yeah.
And, you don't obviously play with them there, but you get to know them and exchange information, and you can arrange something, that next step where it's like a full-blown dinner or something.
Right. And the safest thing about a date is, some people may complain that, well, then what if we don't hit it off, and then we've got to sit there and have dinner with people that we're really not, well
connected with.
Yeah, try to do as much vetting ahead of time, text back and forth ahead of time, make sure they have a good profile, maybe talk if you think that's necessary.
Yeah.
But again, you're in a public restaurant, so if it doesn't work out, and this is a good chance for you to work on your communication skills as a couple too.
Right.
Like squeezing under the table, like, let's get the heck out of here, or, hey, this couple's all right, I'm really interested.
And I mean, we're probably 50-50 on dating, as far as, having dinner with a couple.
Yeah.
And we've never really had like a horrible dinner.
No.
I mean, I think we've always enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. But you know what, honey?
What?
We have a podcast. And so a lot of times when things start to go bad, I'll say, well, at least it'll make for a good story.
I know.
Podcast.
That's true. But I mean, I guess the thing is even if you're not attracted to them, you're still at dinner with lifestyle people, so you can still talk to them about some wild and crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we usually have a pretty good time.
Yeah, we do. And we've gotten a lot of, like one person emailed us and said, how do I get in the lifestyle? You guys sound like you have so much fun, but we're 600 miles from the closest city,
those poor people.
We don't want to date anybody locally. Well, that really limits your opportunities, which really takes us to the next thing on our list, and that is vacation swinging.
Yeah, we have met several people at Desire that only swing on vacation.
Right.
I mean, when they're at home, they are vanilla.
Yep.
And, they just, and gosh, some people come to Desire like three or four times a year. It's craziness. So, they'll come and just let their hair down and just have a good time. And they don't, then they don't really miss it when they get home, because they are at the place in their lives where they can afford to go on vacation several times a year.
Yes.
So, that's low risk. You can always say, we're never going to see these people again.
Right. But it's a little bit pricey.
Right.
To do that. So again, there's always trade-offs between, which one that you decide you're most comfortable with to start.
Right. So, I mean, I guess the thing about doing it on vacation, though, is you do have that freedom of, these people are, we're never going to see these people again.
Right.
And you also have the luxury of not having kids to take care of and a job hanging over your head and dishes to be done and grass to mow. You've escaped from reality.
Yeah, you can immerse yourself in the environment. You're there for several days, so there's not a lot of pressure on you. And at Desire, it's not a lifestyle resort, it's a clothing optional resort. So there's half the people there probably aren't even in the lifestyle.
Right.
So it's a really good environment if you want to travel and just do lifestyle traveling.
Well, now, you don't have to just go to Desire if you want to do that. You can go anywhere on vacation, and that's another thing that the websites can do for you.
Yes.
They have like rendezvous or hot dates. It depends on the website on what they call them. but you can actually put it out there that we're going to be in San Diego, for 4th of July or whatever.
Right.
What's going on out there? Does anybody want to meet us for dinner? And you'll get a response.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool. We've done it before.
Yep.
And so you don't have to go to a lifestyle resort to swing on vacation.
That was the You're So Beautiful.
Yeah,
that was a hot date.
It was. But we did that when we went to San Diego. That was one of our very first experiences.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so we did a rendezvous on Cassidy.
Right.
Worked like a charm.
So after vacations, there's clubs.
Yes.
And we have some experience with clubs, but not a lot because we don't have a lot of clubs, any to speak of, near around where we live.
Right.
So the clubs we visited have been mostly while we're on travel.
Right. Now, we know some people have access to clubs. It seems like there's a lot of clubs in the Midwest and like in Texas.
In the South.
Yeah, the Northwest. But we just don't have that luxury where we live.
Right.
A club is nice in that it's convenient. It's like one-stop shopping. You again, it's not free. You got to pay the membership and the nightly fee. But once you get in there, you've got dancing, you've got a bar, you've got, a lot of couples to choose from. And then at least the clubs that we're talking about are on premise, which means they have an area where there's playrooms.
Right.
So you can actually have sex right there at the club. You don't have to find a hotel room or whatever. It's very convenient.
Yeah. I mean, just understand this though. Normal clubs and restaurants cater to the wider public. And so their business model and their buildings are set up, they want to be high visibility, nice ambiance, they're paying a lot, for you to have a nice time. The lifestyle community is much smaller. So a lot of these clubs are in industrial parks. They're in buildings that aesthetically don't really look that nice from the outside.
You pull up and you're like, I'm not getting out of the car.
Yeah. And some of them are nicer on the inside than others. But really that, they're all across the spectrum.
Right.
So if there's one near you, visit a couple times. But again, the website's going to tell you which ones are local and
right.
And you can try to visit and start to meet people.
It's a little higher risk there because especially a club, you might get there at like 9 or 10 at night and, you are probably need to be finished by 2. So you have this limited window of time
right.
to get in there, get comfortable,
right.
meet people, make a connection and play.
Right. And some clubs are on premise and some are off premise.
Yeah.
So that's a very important distinction. Some of them you can play there and some of them you have to leave the facility and either go to a hotel or go back home.
So, you I guess that's why I'm considering it to be higher risk because you have to realize that, it seems like that's a lot of pressure because again, you've made a night out of it. You want something to happen,
right.
But it's okay if it doesn't happen. You can just go back into the play area and watch people have sex, or you can just go have sex with each other. But you have a lot of options
right.
at a club.
And so next is events. And events are a little bit confusing because you'll see events advertised and you might think it's a club or a hotel takeover, but really it's there are people who do this as a business and they just coordinate parties. And so they're going to be at different locations, but it may have the same title, mm-hmm. but they're going to meet at different places. And typically, not all the time, but typically those are off premise because people will find a public restaurant or bar to rent out and there's not going to be on-site stuff. And one of the more exclusive ones is the Do You Know George?
Right.
It was the same thing with his events. They're very nice and you meet great people, but it's going to be in a particular city, in a particular hotel, and you meet people, but then it's up to you to connect and take playtime,
right.
into a more private setting.
So, every event's going to be different, but the event will tell you what's available.
Right.
So you just have to, read about it or maybe after you're in the lifestyle for a while, you can say, hey, have you ever been to this type of event before? And then people can kind of tell you what the skinny is about it. Right.
And then there's hotel takeovers.
Yes, which is an event basically, but it's at a hotel.
Yeah.
It's usually, from what we've heard, is maybe not the super nicest hotel in the town.
Well, it depends. I mean, Naughty in New Orleans is a hotel takeover.
Yes.
And that's a really nice hotel.
That's a very nice hotel.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of a mixed bag. And again, you have to do a little bit of research.
Right.
Everything's always going to sound super sexy.
Yeah.
And you just have to know what you're walking into so that you aren't disappointed.
Right. And so let's talk about Naughty in New Orleans for a minute, because if you listen to our episode, it's pretty wild and crazy. But it is a place where a new couple or a couple not in the lifestyle or just getting in the lifestyle could go for the first time and really have a good time.
Right. Definitely. I mean, there's so many people there. You're going to have people at every level of experience.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the workshops that they offer, during the early afternoon are designed for newbies.
Yeah,
and it's a high percentage of those workshops.
Yeah, they're very educational. And you're in New Orleans, so if something's going on that you don't want to participate in, just go out on the town somewhere.
I know. Go find some beignets to eat or some etouffee or whatever.
Crawfish etouffee.
Yeah, it's an amazing city, and you're right in the middle of it. I mean,
Yes.
you can walk to tons of stuff.
Yeah, so consider that. And that's really not that expensive compared to Desire and some other places.
Right.
And it's 4 days. So you're there long enough to meet some people and develop some pretty good relationships.
And relax and get in the groove.
Yes. Okay, so down to our last kind of thing that you can do or place that you can go. And this is, you have this ranked on the high risk scale.
Right. Well, it's because it's such a wild card.
Yeah.
And that's a house party.
Mm-hmm.
We have been to a few house parties now, and we have been very fortunate.
Yes, we have.
They've all been hosted by wonderful people that have really done a lot of work to make sure that the party runs smoothly.
Yes.
They've, had a very controlled guest list, and they have done a good job of communicating what to expect when you get there and what they expect of you as their guest in their home. So we have had wonderful experiences.
And I think a good point to make here is the people that invited us to the house party were people we went on a date with.
Right.
And we really didn't have the chemistry to play with them.
But we had wonderful conversations with them.
And because we met them, they invited us to a house party. So that was a benefit from going out on a date. Otherwise, we may not have been invited to that house party.
Now, some house parties will be advertised on the lifestyle websites, and it's kind of a free-for-all. The first 50 people to sign up get in, or the first 75 people, or, so... You don't know what to expect there, and actually the hosts don't know what to expect. They're being very open and just allowing anybody to come to their party.
Yeah, and this is a good time to refer you over to one of our favorite podcasts, and that's Swinging Down Under, with C and D. And if you listen to their episode 17, they talk about a house party that didn't quite meet their expectations.
Right. There was a little bit of... maybe false advertising.
Yeah, there's a whole list of things that they'll go through. So take a listen to that one before. But all house parties are different, and it doesn't mean that's what you're going to run into. But I like the fact that they put that out there because it was real, and it forced them to, as a couple, make the best out of the evening.
And they did make the best out of the evening, and they did a good job of reflecting on it and learning from it, on how they'll make choices in the future.
Right. But we've had great success at house parties.
Right. But the thing about a house party is that you are at the mercy of the host and hostess as far as what the environment's going to be like.
Right.
There's no security staff there.
Right.
When you're at a public venue, there's going to be... well, first of all, just rules of society if you're at a restaurant.
Yeah, right.
And the manager can kick you out if you're being, obnoxious.
Like Jay.
And then if you go to the I can't believe I just said Let me back that up.
He won't catch that.
I'm sorry, Jay.
Well, now he will.
I know. Well, poor guy. I love you, Jay. So moving on. So then if you go to an event hosted by, like Mr. Jones said, some of the events are actually run by couples that have a business.
Yeah.
They will have security staff.
Yes.
And those security people are there to make sure no lines are being crossed.
Because people drink too much.
Yeah, people drink too much. I mean, it's not really somebody's just groping you because they're, whatever, that people just lose control because they're overserved or they overserve themselves.
Yep.
So when you go to a house party, there is no security staff. You're just, everybody's kind of self-policing. And again, it really depends on the guest list.
Yes.
And on how the host and hostess are having the evening flow.
Right. But this is a great opportunity, though, to be a team together.
Right.
Stick to each other pretty closely on that first house party.
Right.
But, flirt with people, get to know people, and have a good time.
Right.
Yeah. So that's about all of the sorts of types of events that you can step into.
At least the ones we thought of. Yeah.
Right. So what is it going to feel like, Mrs. Jones, the first time that I drag you to one of these things?
I know. So now you make, you check it all out and you say, okay, I think we should try, this. And you plan it all out. You get your babysitter, you get your new dress, and you're all jazzed up and ready to go. And you get in the car and you drive there. And sometimes when we get there and we park, I can't get my car door to open.
Yeah.
I just kind of sit there and I get that deer in the headlights look and I'm just a little shaky.
Yeah, I'll open the door.
My mouth is really dry. And
I close the door and I go to use the remote to lock the doors, and I look around and I said, where'd she go? Oh, she's still sitting in the passenger seat.
So he'll come around and open the door for me and just kind of look at me like, Are you okay?
And then there's heel marks in the asphalt from where I dragged her.
No, it's not that bad. I've only done that a couple times. But,
yeah.
But it is. I mean, you get there and you're like, are we really going to do this?
Yeah.
I think we've actually said that to each other more than once.
Right. And what that is you've, in your imagination, you've convinced yourself that when you walk into that door, there's going to be barbarians in there swinging from the chandeliers and, all of these really aggressive people, and they're going to grab
me by the
they're going to grab
hair.
you before you can turn around and throw you into this room and separate the two of you and just go to town.
Right.
That's what you've worked up in your head.
Yes.
On the way.
Exactly. You've been in my head.
Yeah. I know. I have. Yeah. It's quite the sight. But anyway, and then when you get through the door, all of a sudden that dissipates.
Right. There's these wonderfully nice, normal people in there.
Right.
So you just have to kind of realize your imagination can tend to run away with you. And once you get in there and you realize, hey, these are like normal people that I could run into at the grocery store. I mean, we're just all normal, happy people that just want to have a little extra fun.
Right. And on the way there, you've already had your talk.
Yes.
About what your limits are.
Right.
And you have that discussion. We've talked about that in another episode, but you have that discussion on the way to every event.
I called you out not too long ago. We were driving up to DC. I don't even remember who we were going to see, but we were driving up to DC, and I think we were talking about the podcast. I think we were like starting to map out our next episode, and we were almost there. And I said, I need to interrupt you. And you were like, what? Because we were like really in the middle of a good conversation. I think we were going to Alexandria, or I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So, but I know we were headed up to like DC or Alexandria or something, and we were getting really, really close. And finally I was like, I need to interrupt you. We haven't had the talk yet. And you were like, what? I'm like, we're on a swinger date. We need to have the talk. And you were like, oh yeah, right.
Right.
We're so busy talking about our swinger podcast.
Yeah.
We weren't having our swinger talk.
Yeah, guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so we still have the talk.
We still have the talk.
Yes.
And we remind each other that we're a team.
Yes.
And we've both proven that in the past. So
yep, we've kind of saved each other.
We have. So once I get you through the door, or you get me through the door sometimes, this is where, no matter what, I mean, flirting is a big part of being in the lifestyle. And I was
actually getting very good at it.
Well, thank you. I was just going to say I was horrible at it because I never did it before.
I know.
Yeah. And when I flirted, all I could do is think back to high school, in college. That's the last time I ever flirted, with somebody.
Well, you didn't even really flirt that much with me. I remember I used to tease you.
Yeah.
When we were dating.
So work on your flirting skills and put yourself out there. And that's what people expect.
I remember when we first started going to events and I would be flirting with a guy or with his wife, because I like to flirt with women too. I remember I would catch myself and I would turn around and look at you like, have I gone too far?
Yeah.
Is he going to get irritated?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I don't really pay a lot of attention to you when we go to these things because we're really focused on meeting other people.
Right.
So I feel like I'm flirting with everybody but you.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of weird. So I remember I would look over at you like, uh-oh. And you'd just be smiling and, give me a little secret thumbs up or whatever. And I'd be like, oh, I'm allowed to do this. This is okay. And this is really fun.
Right. And it's weird for me, like when we're texting people and flirting through text, if you're at work and I'm at work and you're not there, I'll do 3 or 4 texts and I'll think, uh-oh, she didn't text back. Did I go too far? But we're learning, it's just
I'm
okay.
in a meeting or something and my phone's upside down because I can't even look at it because I know what's going on. And I'm like, dang it. I'm in a meeting and I can't look.
Right. But those skills are really going to come in handy, even in your daytime job. It's like networking. That's exactly. And I was horrible at that too. So it's even made it easier in my job to network.
Mr. Jones had like a big power meeting the other day and I texted him after when I knew it would be over and I said, how'd it go, honey? And he said, oh, I had her eaten out of the palm of my hand. I said, I hope you don't mean that literally.
No. Yeah.
But I mean, you're much more confident when you interact with people now.
Yeah. I mean, if I can approach a 5'10", blonde, beautiful woman and eventually get to play with her, all of a sudden it just changes your perspective on things at work.
That's right.
Or things out in the real world.
That's right.
Yeah. So you got to work on your flirting skills. And at least at that first event, you're going to check in with each other often.
Yes.
Make sure that you were within eye contact of each other. I think the first few events we went to, we literally were touching elbows the whole night.
And now, for example, we just went to that party in Pittsburgh with the Star Underground crew. Right. And once we got in there and all the introductions were made, you and I kind of split up because we had so many people we were looking forward to meeting for such a long period of time. And we were there and then we would meet other people and get caught up in conversations with them. And at one point I'm like, I wonder if people think we even like each other because we haven't even been in the same room tonight together tonight. And we were okay.
But we learned something that night. I don't know if you remember, but when we left or we were on our way home from the weekend, you were flirting with Alonzo pretty heavily.
Or from Star Underground, yes.
Yeah. And on the way home, you said, I really felt, because I knew that we weren't going to play there, because we had already made arrangements with Paige and Penn to go back to our hotel. So, you said, I knew I wasn't going to play there, so I never had in the back of my mind that worry that I was going to get myself into too deep with somebody
without checking with you
without
first.
Checking with me, right?
Because normally, we would have to make sure that we were interested in the couple,
right?
And that's unfortunate that we had to leave because it wasn't that I wasn't interested. It's just I knew it wasn't a possibility because we had a limited amount of time there.
But the lesson that we learned is the frame of mind you should be in is that just what you were in.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to play with somebody until you agree to let it happen.
Right.
And that's
I think I overthink things a lot and I wasn't overthinking anything that night.
Well, especially the first time, like when I see you flirting with the guy or kissing a guy, I'm thinking, oh, she wants to sleep with him. And when we first started, I had that worry, but now when you go to a party, it's pretty commonplace that, you'll stop and talk to a guy. You'll flirt with them if you have a good time. You might kiss them goodbye when you walk away or whatever. Right. And that's just part of, this may sound strange if you're not in this lifestyle, but it's like shaking somebody's hand in the business world. When you get up from a meeting, you exchange business cards and shake hands. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yes. And now you get to give somebody a juicy kiss.
Right. So your perception of really what's going on is a little bit different than reality. And then, there's always going to be the worry about hurting people's feelings or about getting rejected. And let's just get this out of the way. It's going to happen.
It is going to happen.
And it's a good thing because we're, especially in society, we're so concerned about hurting people's feelings that we often hurt their feelings more by not being honest with them because we don't want to hurt their feelings.
Or you don't hurt their feelings at your expense, which is even worse, because you have to acknowledge the fact that you're not interested in this couple.
Right.
And you have to be able to find a way to let them know that. You don't want to be rude to them, but you need to let them know that this isn't going to go anywhere. We really enjoy talking to you, but, we're going to go get another drink or something.
Right.
And you just try to extricate yourself from that situation, because first of all, you don't want to mislead them. And second of all, you want to let them move on and find another couple that they do connect with.
If you're going to reject me, do it quick.
Right.
So I can, move
so
on.
it doesn't take up the whole evening. And that sounds so crass, but you want to be able to find a couple to connect with, and so does that other couple.
And that's the expectation. Actually, people are going to respect you. It might sting a little bit. It always does.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, it takes people 5 or 10 minutes and they're over it.
Right.
So go ahead and figure out a way. And this is something you could practice ahead of time is, I really appreciate the offer, or, hey, I've got to catch up with my spouse, or, hey, I need to go refresh my drink, or it was, do something that politely tells them that that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it gets easier to do over time. I mean, at first it feels like it's going to be a big deal, but then you realize that it's happening, everywhere around the room.
Okay, so we've made it past all of that. We didn't hurt anybody's feelings because we've agreed to play.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so we have found the couple, or it could be a single.
Yep.
Whatever type of experience you're looking for. Well, it can be now.
Because of my naughty stocking gift.
Yeah. Speaking of anxiety, whew.
Anyway.
All these feelings that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I've got them all again.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting all over with my single guy anxiety.
Right.
But now I know that I just need to push through it.
Yes. Good. That's the spirit, honey.
I know.
Yeah. So now that you've had the conversation between the two of you, you have to have the conversation between the four of you.
Right. And that sounds so unsexy, but it really, really will make the rest of the evening very sexy. And it's going to make it flow well, because there won't be any misunderstandings along the way.
And typically what we have found is that sometimes the ladies tend to be the ones to have this conversation.
Right.
So if you think something's going to happen, guys, it might be very strategic of you to go to the men's room. Because I would come back from the men's room and you'd say, okay, we're all ready to go. And I'd say, wait, what? And then I learned over the time to trust you because you've already had the talk.
Right. Well, one thing that I'm learning is that women in the lifestyle are pretty matter of fact about, the whole process.
Right.
I think it's because we
you've had children.
We've had children and we've been poked and prodded and everything's been discussed. And, if you need, if you just say, we're okay with soft swap, well, what does that mean to you? Because it might mean something very different to the other couple. Yeah. And when you say soft swap, does that mean that you want to play with the woman? And do you just want to kiss the woman? Do you want to have oral sex with the woman? Do you want her to have oral sex with you, but you don't want to go down on her? I mean, there's a lot of negotiating to be involved. Yeah. And it seems like it's so clinical and awkward and sexy. And I guess it can be a little bit at first, but like I said, once all that's done, then you just can start having some good playtime and everybody can relax and not have to overthink everything in the middle of play.
And normally from this point forward, it's going to go well, but I have to be the one to say, if you had a conversation with the couple and they agreed to your level of play, and then you get into the playroom and that doesn't seem to be the case. So there are people out there, and they're few. I mean, they're in the minority, but people will mislead you. So just be aware. Just because somebody says that they're okay with something, be on the lookout, until you get into play and you can tell, okay, they're trustworthy. This is going to go how we planned it to go.
Right. I mean, there are very few people out there. I mean, it can happen. They say, oh yeah, we're okay with soft swap. And then all of a sudden they try to push things. Right. Once everybody's really turned on. And again, those hormones take over. And you might think, well, maybe it would be okay if we went ahead and did full swap. But that's probably going to be something that is going to take a lot of effort and emotion to clean up afterwards.
Yeah.
Especially if you guys are very new.
Okay, so here's the bullet we fought over.
Yes, here we go. This is your baby.
So you want me to take a first stab at this?
Yes, please,
okay.
Please.
All right, when you're doing this for the first time you're going to see your spouse doing something for the first time that you've never seen before. And maybe when you talked about it with your spouse and fantasized about it, it turned you on, and you have an expectation that's going to turn you on again. And let's just say for some reason it's a neutral experience where it doesn't turn you on. Take into consideration that the environment that you've put yourself in is new, and you've never experienced this environment before. So everything that's going on around you may have affected your ability to know whether or not you think what's going on is hot or not. So afterwards, make sure if it's not, of course, you might walk in and you're like, game on, I'm seeing you, it's hot, she's with another guy, I'm good. But if not, don't jump to conclusions that you think you were wrong and you got to get out, because once you do this 2 or 3 times, then the environment itself gets a little bit more normal. Then you're able to see. Then that's not in the way. It doesn't cloud, your judgment or your feelings for the night.
Well, I remember Jay from Average Swingers told us, when we were talking about if we wanted to become a full swap couple, I remember he told you that we would probably laugh about how uptight we were about it after we full swapped the second time.
With the second couple.
Yeah, with the second couple.
Right.
Because the first time you're overthinking it, overprocessing it.
Yes.
And but he said, after the second time, you're going to look back, and if you've done it right, you're going to say, okay, well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
And he was exactly right.
Right. Okay. So we're okay with that one?
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully that made up for us not talking about Jay in a good light earlier.
Yes. And the next thing is that whether things are going well or not, you need to give your partner permission to pull the plug at any time.
Right.
And, so even at Naughty New Orleans, when you wanted to walk out of the orgy room, nobody did anything wrong. It's just that you all of a sudden got uncomfortable, and we walked out.
Right. And you didn't know why I was walking out when you followed me out, but you just knew I had to go.
Right. So, or there may be just something blatantly that went wrong.
Yeah.
You need to leave. You need to leave.
Yeah. And in my case, there wasn't anything. It was just all of a sudden my head was messed up.
Right. But guys, remember this. You could be deeply engrossed in the other woman, and there's something going on with your wife or your partner that you haven't been a part of. And she taps you on the leg and says, disengage, or you see that look on her face. That's not the point. That's not the time to stop and say, oh, honey, let's talk about this. What's wrong? No, you just stop. Okay, I know this person. There's something that's not quite right. I'm going to disengage, and we're going to excuse ourselves and go out and then process it later.
Right.
And talk about it later when things settle down. But the point is unconditionally, you should be able to pull the plug at any time without getting your spouse angry.
Right. And no reason needed.
Right.
If one person wants out, you're out.
Because a lot of times, like I remember it happened to me once, I didn't even really know the reason. I just felt uncomfortable all of a sudden. And
I looked over at you because everything was fine. And then I looked over, and this was recent. I looked over at Mr. Jones and I was like, what is that look on his face?
Right.
I mean, I could just tell you were just laying there like a zombie, totally not into what was going on. And there was some hot stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you were completely disengaged. And this was a couple that, we had played with before. So that it wasn't like a first time, maybe we made a mistake with this couple thing. So I don't know. And it was all in your head. It wasn't anything that anybody had said or done or whatever. So it still happens to us.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least this time I had the experience to just re-engage.
Right. I mean, I could tell, I looked at you and you didn't give me the look like, let's get out of here.
Right.
So, I luckily we had the experience where I was able to kind of just keep going and just keep watching you. And then eventually you rallied. Right. And then everything turned out to be awesome.
Yes.
So it
was very good. And see,
just a slow start.
If it was a year ago, I probably would have bolted.
Yeah. Right.
But I know
usually you're the first one done, but this time you were the slow starter.
Okay, it's time to move on.
Sorry.
All right, and then we're going to steal this line from one of our favorite people, Paige from
Swinger
Diaries, and her words are, "No pressure, no promises." So don't expect to play or don't force a play experience onto someone.
You know, she is one of the most genuinely nice people
Yes.
I know.
Right.
And she is always happy. I mean, it is just really rare to see that lady without a smile on her face.
Right.
But when we talk about boundaries and expectations, and she says no pressure, no promises, that girl means some business.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just very matter of fact about it.
Yeah.
You know, as wonderfully, genuinely kind as she is, she also understands this is about protecting yourself and protecting your spouse and your relationship.
There's a time to be selfish.
Yeah.
But you're being straightforward about it like she is.
Yep.
And I owe her big time because I usually bring her in like with this whole single guy thing. I was like, you know, Paige, talk about your single guy experiences with Mrs.
They've
Jones.
played with single guys before.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
So she's been a big help.
She's my mentor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's during playtime. Now we're going to move to the last section. That's afterward.
The morning after.
Yes. And every experience is different, no matter how long you've been in this.
Yep. Every experience needs a little bit of debrief.
And sometimes it happens as soon as you walk out of the bedroom.
Oh, I know.
Sometimes it happens when you get back to your room or your home and you go to bed. And sometimes it happens the next day. And sometimes it's even a few days later when you think of something and bring it up and talk about it then.
I told Mr. Jones, I think that's why I invented Martini Monday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, we'll play on Saturday night and I'm not going to lie, I like to sleep. And when we play, we're usually up way past midnight, sometimes way, way past midnight. And I can hang, but once we get in bed, that's kind of like instantly shutdown mode for me. So sometimes we'll have reconnection sex, but a lot of times I just want to cuddle.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit, but I'd rather save my reconnection sex for the next morning. And
if we don't really have that talk at night, what we do say to each other is you'll say, is everything okay? And then I'll say, yeah, are you okay? And so at least we can go to sleep knowing that,
right? Or
generally speaking.
Or, you know, we might touch on something and just say, well, you know, we can talk about it more in the morning.
Right.
You know, but then the next morning we'll get up and have some coffee and get a little caffeine. And then we seem to have our best conversations the next morning.
And then it was like, what did you think about when he did that? You know, or what was going on? That was crazy.
Right.
You know?
Or sometimes we'll say something and like, I missed that. I didn't know that happened.
And I'll say, do you realize you said this? You know, I did. Oh my gosh. I said, no, it was hot. And that's actually during those conversations is where you got the idea of the snapshot.
Yeah. Yep. And that was actually at night. That was when I was dead tired. But I just had this like this visual image of something that happened burned in my brain.
Yeah.
And it was like a snapshot. It was just a still image.
Right. So there you have it.
Yep.
If you want to know, as far as the Joneses are concerned, that runs the gamut. But the bottom line here, I guess the conclusion is, you know, a lot of people have said, we can't imagine doing what you're doing, or we're not even in the lifestyle. And every time I think of another man full swapping with my wife, I can't put my head around that. And our response is
baby steps.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not you. So remember, if you think we're all that, go back and listen to episode 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah. We were kind of pitiful. And, you know, we have not exactly been the road runner here. We've taken our time.
Right.
And we've had to back up, and especially at first.
Yeah.
It took months to kind of take some next steps for us.
But you know what I like in it too is when we we both run marathons.
Yes.
And when people come up to you and they say, "Oh my gosh, you run 26.2 miles. I can't get my head around that.
I can't run around the block."
It's the same. So it's really the same sort of approach as it is when people say they can't imagine full swapping. And the answer to the marathon question is, well, you start with a half a mile.
Right. I remember I had taken spin class for a couple years and I had done a lot of strength training. I was really, really in shape. And a good friend of mine is a high school track coach. And I said, I want to start running. So, you know, help me get up to speed. And he's like, okay, you're going to run a half mile today. And I said, no, really, I'm in good shape. I can run further than that. He said, I know you can. You asked me how far you should run. I said, you're telling you to run a half mile. And I was like, you're insulting me. He's like, no, I'm telling you what to do.
Right.
So I was like, okay. I was really irritated with him, but I did what he said because I trust him. And I couldn't walk for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I was in really good shape, but I got through that. And then he said, okay, now you can run a mile.
Right.
And he told me exactly how to baby step my way in. And then I realized after a period of time, because I had never run before. Mr. Jones ran in high school, and he's just a very natural athlete. I think I have to work a lot harder at this stuff. And I remember telling myself, okay, so I ran 7 miles a day. Next week I got to run 8, but that's only 10 more minutes. I can do anything for 10 minutes.
Right. And so what we're saying is that your perspective changes.
That little baby step isn't that big of a deal once you've done other stuff.
So don't think about 26 miles. Don't think about full swap. Think about that first half mile.
Right.
And then after that, you can think about the next half mile.
Right.
It's a big mistake to look at somebody else and try to project yourself into that path because it's overwhelming sometimes and you'll never even take that first step.
Right. But, what is it going to feel like? Just think about, what would it feel like to kiss somebody else? And would that turn my husband on, or would that turn my wife on for him or her to watch me kiss somebody else? It doesn't have to be, having full-blown sex.
Yep.
At least not at first.
Yeah. It's worth the wait.
It is worth the wait.
Because if, your relationship is going to be better, the sex between the two of you is going to be better, and you're going to have a heck of a lot of fun with other people.
Yes. There's some amazing lifestyle people out there.
Yeah. So thanks for writing in and making the suggestions for us to talk about this, and hopefully this is helpful. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some sexy and maybe a couple of funny snapshots.
Yes.
Okay, welcome back. And we've got, first of all, I want to say thank you. We were out of snapshots last episode, and we received several.
Yeah.
And it was tough to narrow it down to 2, but we'll get to the other ones in the future, we promise. So I'm going to read one from friends in Kentucky. And the one thing I want to say about this one is it's a vanilla snapshot. So it just proves to you all out there that are not in the lifestyle that snapshots don't have to be lifestyle snapshots.
That's right. They can still be super sexy.
Yes. But these 2 that we're choosing have to do with Christmas. So that's why we're picking them tonight. And this couple decided to do naughty stockings.
Yay.
Yay. So here we go. My wife and I loved the idea of naughty stocking night when we heard it on the podcast. Even though I probably overthought the event at first, it was a great success. We started by opening a bottle of wine and eating chocolates, while T, my wife, put on a cute set of black panties, a lace bra, and stockings. Ooh, I don't know how you concentrate on the stocking after that point in time, but it was a great time as we opened each carefully selected gift. While laying in a pile of wrapping paper and naughty treats, we decided to take a few sexy pictures in front of the Christmas tree and share them with some of our friends. After all, didn't we all call our friends after Christmas when we were kids and brag about our haul? After having a lot of laughs over the photo shoot, we went back to the bedroom and T turned one of her gifts around on me. I bought a silk blindfold for her, but she slipped it over my eyes. Now, I am up for just about anything, and so I laid back in anticipation. Pulling down my pajama bottom, she began teasing my cock with her mouth. I don't know if it was the illustrated oral sex book she had just opened from the stocking or the inspiration of the moment, but it felt like she had an extra set of hands as she sucked, stroked and caressed me all over. It wasn't long before the gifts were shoved aside and we were bringing each other to festive orgasms. We definitely have a new Christmas tradition in our house.
Yay. That was a good one.
It was. So naughty stockings often lead to that, Mrs.
That's
Jones.
right. That's right. Okay, well, mine is hilarious, I have to say. Okay, so it's the lady writing this snapshot. It was a Thursday evening before Christmas. We live in a small subdivision in a town in Texas. It's quiet and we never have anyone come to the front door with the exception of UPS or FedEx. When we had our house painted last year, I never got around to putting the curtains back up on the windows that are on either side of our front door. I can just see what's coming here.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, right. I become somewhat of a pole dance enthusiast, and my husband was ever so happy to install a static and spinner pole in our living room for me to practice on. Who needs formal dining and living room furniture when you can have what looks like a stripper bar instead?
I like her.
I know, this lady's got spunk. Anyway, he was giving me grief about practicing when he wasn't home to see me, so I decided to surprise him with a sexy show. 7 o'clock on a Thursday evening, he wouldn't be expecting it. So I put on a thong and some pasties, cranked up my explicit pole dance mix, and started warming up for my performance. I hear a faint noise outside, then some singing, and turned around to a crowd of Christmas carolers at our front door. I screamed and ran out of the living room into the laundry room. We tried to act like we weren't home, but they didn't leave, so my husband went to the door.
I wouldn't have left either.
So my husband went to the door yelling for me to join him. I found a pair of jeans in the dryer and threw on a coat I found in the laundry room coat rack. It was about 80 degrees outside. And joined him at the front door, which he had swung open. There were about 30 kids and 15 adults belting out carols, all verses for what seemed a very long time. I had candy to hand out to the kids, so I think most of them were oblivious to the poles in the front room, but I did see some wide eyes from the adults in the group.
I'll tell you what, if I
would have been dying.
I know, but if I was the adult in the group and I'm walking down the street and I said, hey, we're going to this house. If I could have seen what was going on inside.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So anyway, they handed us a card inviting us to Christmas Eve services at their church before heading back down the sidewalk. We laughed so hard we couldn't breathe. I can't even talk right now. I'm laughing so hard. We haven't had carolers at our house in years. I have to admit, I could see God himself looking down, shaking his finger at me as I stood there topless under my coat.
That's funny.
That is so funny.
That's funny.
I mean, what are the odds?
I don't know. That's hilarious. Thank you for you all in Texas for sharing this snapshot.
That's right.
That was good.
And actually, we have to confess, we met that couple at Naughty New Orleans that sent us that snapshot.
We did. We met them in 2014 before we had even started podcasting.
Yeah, we were. I think we met them at. We had gone to that workshop that Michael and Holly did from Playboy Swing, and we met them there afterwards.
Yep, nice couple.
So adorable couple.
Right. All right, Mrs. Jones, it's our turn.
Oh, it's our turn.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just a week ago, the couple that we had met at the winery before Christmas, we had planned to get together with again. And we did. They came to our house and we had a lovely evening. We drank some wine and had some cheese and crackers and stuff and talked and talked and talked.
We had 2 bottles of wine.
We did. Oh, we did.
Well, there were 4 of us.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, we ended up upstairs and started playing. And
how did that happen?
I don't know.
We ended up upstairs.
And again, we didn't even, I really wanted to play our new card game with them. And I didn't even get to do that.
No.
Oh, dang it. So, well, actually, I'm not complaining at all. So we go upstairs and we start playing with them. And the lady is the tiniest, most petite, adorable lady. Mm-hmm. She's very kind of feisty. She's, very outgoing.
She's confident.
And, she is confident. But she kind of reminds me of like, I don't know. She kind of reminds me of Tinkerbell because she's like really outgoing and she's just so petite and her body is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But it's in this tiny, tiny little package.
Yes.
That has all the right curves and all the right places.
Oh yes, I can attest to that.
I think her ass might be the most perfect ass I've ever seen in my life.
Well, like I said, when he made that comment about her ass, I said, well, it's in the top 2.
Yes, Mr. Jones was very slick about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But yeah, her just everything about her is just amazing.
Yes.
So at one point, she was kneeling upright on the bed and you were behind her.
Yes, I remember.
And she had her head back on your shoulder.
Yes.
So her long neck was exposed, and I think you had your hands around her on her breasts.
I did.
And I think you were like kissing her neck.
I was.
And I think she had like one arm behind her, kind of holding on to you, and she had the other hand on her husband's cock because he was kneeling facing her. So she had one hand behind you, and then she had her other hand stroking her husband's cock, and then I was laying down, and I'm kind of taking this whole thing in, and it was just so beautiful. It could have been like an erotic photo.
Yes.
Because of the way she was leaning back into you, and you were bent over her, and then her husband is just absolutely gorgeous himself. He's just really fit and muscular and these ridiculously broad shoulders. And so he was a sight to behold as well. And then he was, I think, fingering me at that point. So everybody was receiving pleasure, but it was just really kind of serene at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a sight to behold. Whew. That's just that visual snapshot that'll be there forever.
Yeah, she's so petite that when I put my arm around her, I was able to get my arm all the way around her.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, that was quite a sight. So,
and one thing that we learned from them, we learned a new word from them or a new phrase from them, right?
Oh, green lighted?
Yeah. Yeah. So after we went to the winery with them, we weren't, they're just a really amazing couple, and we weren't really sure if we were like in their league or whatever, so we really wanted to play with them and we wanted to kind of put it out there, but we were a little unsure if, they were as interested as we were. And so I Mr. Jones we had a 4-way text going, and Mr. Jones sent a message about how much we enjoyed being with them, and we would really like to get together with them again in a more intimate setting. And he replied and said something about, we green-lighted you guys a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we were like, I guess that's a good thing, right?
Well, when we invited him over, we said, we'd love to have you over to the house to see if this green-lighted thing is a good thing,
right?
Sounds like a good thing, but we're interested in finding out.
Well, now we know it's a very, very good thing.
Yeah, when somebody green-lights you, it's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
So, my snapshot.
Okay.
So the same couple, and I haven't shared my snapshot with you. Well, I know that this is going to shock everybody, but I finished first. And she had
It wasn't super quick. You had plenty of time to enjoy yourself.
Oh, we had, yes. We did 3 or 4 different positions. It was, but we still finished before you did. And the petite lady that I was playing with, she got up and went to the restroom. And so I got up off the bed and I stood back in the corner of the room, and he was he was missionary with you. And he sat up. He was like squatting, No, he wasn't squatting. He was on his knees, and you were laying on your back, and your legs were around him. And as you said, he's so muscular, and he's got these really broad shoulders, tremendous shape, and and younger than us, and just this image of him with you. And I couldn't even see you because he's big. He blocked almost my whole. I could see your legs, but in that image of, oh my gosh, here's a guy who's, younger, who's really fit, just muscular guy. Nothing like me. He had a completely different physique than me.
Mr. Jones is long and lean.
Yeah.
And this guy is very bulky and not an ounce of fat on him.
Yeah, and he's
solid muscle.
He's very well endowed, and he was going at it with you. And in my mind, what I was thinking was, this guy is so turned on by you that he is just having the time of his life with you. And that's how I know that I am going to enjoy the single guy experience, because it just makes me appreciate, having you, because you're somebody who, is attractive enough that this guy was just completely, enamored with you. And anyway, so my snapshot is just seeing his back, and as he was sitting up, and his broad shoulders, and he was just pounding you. It was almost a little bit like a porn scene there that my wife was in.
Yeah.
But
I was having a good time.
Yeah, they were both quite amazing.
Yes, they were.
We had a good time. And just ultimately, you know what though? They're just great people.
They are great people.
We enjoyed being with them and the conversations, and they don't take themselves seriously, and they have a lot of fun, very intelligent, and it was anyway, the whole night was a success. And so that's my snapshot.
That was a good one. Oof.
Yeah.
Both now and then.
Yeah. So we need to get out of here. We've gone extra long tonight. We apologize for that, but we had a lot to talk about. So before we go, we just want to say, please continue the emails. The last episode we did on our faith and our religion, really, we got more feedback on that podcast than we have on any other one.
Yeah, we really appreciate the support, because we were really not knowing what to expect from that, and it's been very positive support. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, we appreciate that. So continue to email us, and our email address is wegotathing, WEGOTTATHING @gmail.com, and our website is wegotathing.com. You can follow us on Twitter @WeGotAthing. And for those of you on Cassidy, please feel free to join our Cassidy community. We'd love to have you be a part of our community. And don't forget, if you have some spare time, to review us on iTunes, because we really appreciate that support, and it kind of bumps us closer to the top so that people can find us. Yes. And we can be a resource for more people. Yeah. So, and we did get a couple of new reviews on iTunes. Yeah. So thank you both for doing that for us. Yeah. So the next time we see you, we will come back from Miami, and we will be reporting on our Do You Know George weekend down in Miami. We're very, very excited about it. It's going to be a blast. It is going to be a blast. So anything else, Mrs. Jones? I think that was plenty for tonight, honey. All right. Well, thanks for listening. We are Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and we got a thing. What's your thing?